up, America? Welcome to Goodnight America. I'm America's sweetheart, Eric Ryan. Tonight's news stories. The number one ranked state in education in the country, Massachusetts, where I live, obviously, is dumbing down its standards because of its dumbest students. I'm sure that'll work out. And very soon, I'll be able to puke in the back of robot-driven taxis instead of human-driven Ubers, thanks to the ketamine kid. But first, gay mice couples can now have children thanks to science. Here to discuss the news that you won't find on the mainstream media because they fear the truth is the Ashkenazi genius and all-around swell fella, Alex Fink. Alex, thank you and welcome to your own show.
Thank you so much.
I'm going to do you a favor and I'm going to set the table for you with the gay mouse story. You ready?
Go for it.
Okay. Researchers get viable mice by editing DNA from 2 sperm. This is according to Ars Technica. Okay, this is what just happened. Scientists in the Shanghai Jiao Tong University, which I have a beautiful Chinese accent, I'm sure I nailed that, used epigenetic editing, so not gene changes, to coax 2 sperm into making viable baby mice. So there was no egg DNA needed. Of 259 embryos, 2 healthy mice were born, and they even reproduced successfully. Now, why are they doing this? Great question. It's pushing the boundaries. It's a step towards same-sex reproduction, and it could one day lead to 2 gay dads having biological children. The scientific insight, it helps understand genomic imprinting, how sperm and egg tweak DNA for development, and for conservation and fertility. It could someday aid endangered species breeding in infertility treatments. What do you got on the old gay mice story?
Well, I don't think the mice themselves were actually gay, but yes, mice born to 2 fathers. That's one element of it, right? So obviously there are some people waiting for that kind of thing to become possible. But I think the biggest thing here is not what specific edits they made, but the fact that they made any edits at all. And at the end, they got the viable animal, right? So if you can make those edits, you can make any edits really, right?
Yes.
So you could make a mouse from 2 dads. You could make it from 4 dads and just average it between them, right? Or you could edit specific traits in the mice and say, I want this mouse's eyes, this mouse's paws, this mouse's tail. And you can basically create hybrids or cyborgs if you want.
Yeah, despite the fact that I'm from Massachusetts, I really didn't understand the ins and outs of this story, other than I believe it's less about getting 2 male mice to have offspring than it is to understand gene editing in general and for the sake of designer babies. And designer, like I want a designer baby because I think, we grew up in a time where we didn't have the internet, and now soon we're going to be able to design babies. But I just think it's going to be very strange. I think it's going to be like a dating website. Everybody hates being on dating websites, I think, because they put in what they think about themselves, and then they put in what they think they want in a partner. And that never works out because you never really know yourself. You never really know what you want in a partner until you date around. We're going to make these babies thinking we know what we want, and we're going to end up hating these babies. It's much like the arranged marriage of the babies we get now, I think is a much better solution. But since we can do it, we're definitely going to have 6'5", blonde-haired, blue-eyed babies that are going to be geniuses and hilarious. That's coming. This is the beginning.
Well, I'm not quite sure. I think that if you asked most people before they have a kid, like what traits they want their kid to have, and you actually start listing the possibilities, a lot of them will pick traits that they will actually not be happy about later on. Like, okay, maybe 6'5", maybe every baby will look like one of the Winklevoss brothers, right? Yeah. But like, think about more complex dimensions. Like, do you want your kid to be easygoing and obedient kind of when they're a kid, so that it's you get an easier job as a parent? Or do you want them to have really strong character?
Yeah.
Right. I think most parents would really enjoy the former, right? But the kid would be way better off if they had the latter. Right. So there are these odd trade-offs that I'm not sure where most parents would fall on. That's one element. But the other one is, like, do you even select yourself then as the model? Right? If I can have any guy's DNA in my baby, maybe I will pick some parts from other people who are better than me at some stuff.
Right. And then is it even your baby at that point? And like, isn't the point to spread, like to keep your gene pool thriving and reproducing? And instead what you're doing is editing out all your traits. Here's the other thing too, like some of the stuff that is, inadvertently good is rebelliousness and pain in the assness and hard-headedness. And these aren't things you necessarily want in a child, but I think when you become an adult, this is kind of the stuff that entrepreneurialism is founded in, and great works of, science and art. Kids that are happy all the time. That doesn't make for good music or movies or poems, so it's really weird times, but it is going to happen.
Yeah. Happiness is the other one, right? Like, do you want your kid to mostly be happy? Well, if you say yes, and most parents would say yes, then you've eliminated their chance at greatness at many different endeavors in life.
Yeah.
Because people who are mostly happy most of the time aren't really driven, right? People who are really driven typically have a chip on their shoulder. They're not quite that happy. Or maybe they get to the point where they can be content and be happy when they're 50 or 60, right? Yeah. But to succeed in your 20s, you need to be slightly angry at the world.
Yeah, every time it's one of those like don't meet your heroes thing. Every time I read a biography or an autobiography, I walk away going, this person's crazy. But the reason a book was written about them or by them is because they achieved something great. And I think to achieve something great, you got to be a little kooky.
Yep. So I don't know where this is going. Like, hopefully the translation from mice to humans is pretty complex. Like, mice have a very short DNA, essentially. So there's fewer things that you need to get right to make it work. Yeah. But still, it's going in an odd direction, at least in China. Not sure that kind of research would happen in the US yet.
No, I was like, who is funding this? I was like, oh, it's China, of course. And I like in the United States, the Southern Baptists, they just got together and they want to reverse gay marriage. Meanwhile, China's working on making sure that two guys can have babies. Like, what is going on in the world? It's very, I know the gay thing isn't the gay thing, but
yeah. Well, I think if you consider the Chinese angle here, they want anybody to have babies. Somebody, please have babies, because they don't have any. Well, so maybe this is the only way that it can work, right? And besides, like, China has a lot more guys than gals in the next generation. Well, so it's not even about the gay thing. They just need to, they don't have enough mothers to birth people.
They really ran the numbers wrong with that whole one child and nobody wanted a girl. And then, was this not like
since when are Chinese guys good at math? Oh, wait.
I was going to say that, but I'm glad you did. One more quick thing on this, dude, just about the gay mice scientists. Can we knock out cancer? I know it's a false equivalency to say, listen, we've given all this money and blah, blah, blah. But can we just these guys are very, very smart. Men and women, these men and women are very smart. They figured out how to make a baby out of 2 male mice. You can't figure out leukemia. I mean, listen, I know nothing about nothing, but I'm just, at some point, please.
Yeah, well, to some extent, yes. Tactically, yes. I would say you probably can't knock out the possibility of cancer at the point of birth because the body has trade-offs, right?
Yeah,
and so you have this weird trade-off between senescence and cancer, right? Telomere length, all that bullshit. Listen to Brett Weinstein. He claims to have done something that deserves him a Nobel Prize about it. I'm not quite sure. But the point is there's a lot of research on this, that there's an odd trade-off in there, and you can't just knock out one of the options without triggering the other.
Yeah. Well, I just thought if you would ask me, 30 years ago, so what's more likely, not figuring out cancer or making sure that 2 male mice can have babies? I would have gone, you know what? A lot of money been thrown at cancer. I think they're going to figure this out first. Anyway, we got to take a break. Listen, you gay mice, watch some commercials and come on back. Hey, welcome back to Goodnight America, where we talk about news stories that the mainstream media fears. They fear the truth. All right, here we go. Here next up is the old Tesla. So this is from the Toronto Sun. Tesla shares jump most in 2 months on robo-taxi service launch. So here's the synopsis. Tesla Inc. shares surged after the automaker rolled out its long-promised driverless taxi service to a handful of riders, a modest debut for what Elon Musk sees as a transformative new business line. The first robo-taxi trips were limited to a narrow portion of Tesla's hometown of Austin on Sunday, with an employee sitting in the front passenger seat of each vehicle to monitor for safety. The car maker handpicked a friendly group of retail investors and social media influencers to serve as initial riders and live stream their trips. Now, a couple of quick points. There's a flat fee for these things, which is $4.20. I don't think that's going to last, but that would be amazing if, first of all, it's $4.20, you dorks. But also, that would be great. But the early videos show that these robo-taxis, there's a lot of lane shifting, there's speed fluctuations and erratic stops. That doesn't bother me because I think we very much need this. I'll get into my opinion later. What do you think about the old robo taxis?
Yeah, it doesn't bother me because that's how people drive in downtown Austin anyway. But I guess the point of sending you the story, along with the story about Massachusetts getting dumber, is that Austin is awesome and Massachusetts sucks, right? You get that. But
mean. We invented America, by the way, but go ahead.
I don't know. You invented a lot of stuff, but it's about to end. You'll get to that story soon. But yeah, I guess it was obvious that it's getting there. I don't know to what extent we can get there outside of really controlled environments, but this is kind of a good first step. And we definitely have some professions where it's not quite clear that we need them, and driving a taxi is one of them, right? Like it's pretty obvious that getting from point A to point B at this point can be automated without additional humans in the loop. It would be easier if the entire world just decided to jump all together, and then you wouldn't have to train your AI to be able to predict what other humans do. It would just have to predict what AI does, and that's way easier. But it seems like even the more complex problem is getting solved, at least to some extent. So good for us.
Well, so this self-driving thing has been, I think, close since like 2016, but I'm not losing hope. We need this to the point about, I just driving. I almost got T-boned the other day because somebody doesn't read a stop sign. Like humans are so stupid. It says stop, you don't stop. There's lines. People can stay in the lines. We need robots to do this. The first step has to be taxis, but I think it's going to be a little gross because have you ever been on a bus or a train or a normal taxi? Everything's wet. It's disgusting. It's public transport. But I think we need to start here and then fully embrace self-driving cars because, God damn it, it's a nightmare. Here's the other thing that bothers me. So they talked about Uber killed a guy in 2018, and that really halted their progress. GM injured somebody in 23, and their license got suspended. With all due respect, listen, I don't want to be one of the dead, but we can't stop this because you hurt one pedestrian. Like, I just think every company needs to, you can kill 200 people to figure this out. Because, listen, guns kill 30,000 people a year, and nobody says anything about this. And listen, I don't want to sound callous, but Uber killing one guy in the name of how many lives would be saved if robots drove all our cars? A lot.
Yeah, so if we talk just about Texas, I think we have something like 3,000 road fatalities per year. So as long as Teslas produce less, then I think they should have some leeway, right? A specific accident should never be a deal breaker. Now, I am going to, let me try to articulate the other side of this, right? Where just doing what Elon does and saying, here's how many accidents there were for miles driven, and we are already better than humans. I don't think that's enough of a standard. I do think that AI needs to meet a tougher standard than humans, among other things, because when AI makes mistakes, they are really non-intuitive to us humans, right? So if I'm a good driver, and everybody thinks they're a good driver, but I can typically predict how the other guy is going to try to kill me. But I can't predict how AI is going to try to kill me because everything I can predict, they've already predicted. So it will only try to kill me in really novel ways. Right.
It's a chess match to stay alive, and they're going to do some interesting moves.
Exactly, right. Like, so they will either like flip the car over on top of mine, or they will do something that I couldn't even think of because everything I could think of, they've already trained out of their system. So for that reason alone, I think we need to have a higher standard. Like, they don't just need to be better than humans at the chance of an accident per mile driven. They need to be 5 times better or 10 times better. But I think they're very close. So they're at the point where, like, driving the car by yourself as opposed to letting the car drive itself, you might be getting to the point where you're only doing it for fun, not because it's better, right? And you're doing it for fun, knowing that the cost is more danger to yourself. But hey, it's fun.
Here's the thing, too. The traffic laws would save a lot of lives if we paid attention to them. So I think one of the annoying things, I think, is that these self-driving cars are going to go the speed limit, which we typically don't do. And that leads, it's going to yield at yield signs. It's going to stop.
I don't think Tesla's going to do that, by the way, because Tesla's autopilot doesn't. They actually have an urgent mode or whatever they call it that speeds, right? Because the way that Tesla has trained their self-driving, right, they don't have any rules in there. The rules are not built into the system. What they used to have, that they had the rule-based system on top of the machine learning system. And at some point they decided it will be much better. They throw away all the rules and they basically just learn what drivers did. And then they started doing the same thing. And of course, this led to some interesting corner cases. I think Elon was talking about it in one of the videos where he said, basically humans stop at a stop sign, like actually come to a stop, something like 1% of the time.
Right.
Like 99% of the time we roll through it. And so at some point, because they didn't want to introduce rules, because that would break their paradigm, but they also didn't want to produce a system that never stops at stop signs, they had to weed through the data set and remove all the instances in which humans didn't stop and roll through the intersection to get to the point where the system learned by itself to stop, which is a really weird solution to this problem, right? But yeah, it's never going to follow the rules exactly because humans don't. And consider more complex situations like a traffic circle.
Yeah.
If you actually follow the signs, you stop there forever, right? You just never enter the circle because you always have to shove yourself in a little bit if it's a busy traffic circle. So there is no following the rules. You just have to break them gradually to be able to drive.
And, I think this is why we need total acceptance so that all the robots figure out all the robots or whatever, they all follow the rules. Because I even think state to state, like I live in Massachusetts where we talked about everybody accuses us of being bad drivers. I think we're good drivers. I think we're predictably aggressive. I go to Florida and I'm horrified at what happens because I can't predict anything that's going on. You got old people doing God knows what. It's, oh my God, it's so scary. So to your point, like if you have to predict other people's stupidity right now and the machines, you got to be all in or all out.
Well, but that's not going to happen because like I used to have at least some connection to the let's say automotive industry, and I think the average car on the road is 11 years old, and the average replacement cycle for an old technology is 30 years.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be a big problem.
So like you still have cars on the road without seatbelts.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And it's not like these things are cheap. It's not like the self-driving car is going to be a tenth of the price and everybody's going to go, okay, well, just convert. It's going to be way more expensive at the beginning.
And also because of how fragmented government is here, you can't have the European solution of we're banning all the old cars as of next year, but here's a credit for you to be able to actually sell them and buy a new one instead. Right? Never going to happen in the US. Therefore, you always have to design around trucks from 1946 also cutting in, right?
Oh, that's a good point too. All the old Corvettes. Oh, gee. Yeah, all right, we're screwed. Why are we talking about this? It's never going to happen. Anyway, hey, listen, we're about to talk about my favorite place in the... I'm just kidding. I'm okay with Massachusetts. It's all right, but I'm going to defend it. I'm going to defend it to the death on the next segment. Stay tuned. Hey, welcome back to Goodnight America. Here we go. We're about to talk about the state in the union that invented America and what they're doing right now, which I think might be dumb, but I'm not sure. We'll tell. Time will tell. Although, all right. Well, listen, we're going to discuss it. Ooh, an educated bet. Massachusetts schools may risk top ranking to lift struggling students. This is by Real Clear Investigations. I'm just going to read you the first two paragraphs because I think they set the table up beautifully. A high-stakes battle over the future of education is playing out in the state that has long had the best public schools in the nation, Massachusetts. The likely overhaul of high school education and graduation requirements in Massachusetts is mostly aimed at lifting the academic performance of low-income Black and Latino students who have been left behind in the state's rise to the top. Leading the changes in charge are progressive teachers' unions and school administrators that want to broaden the scope of high school to include soft skills like teamwork and cultural awareness, as well as career training. The goal is to motivate students by aligning instruction with the workplace needs of a high-tech global economy. What do you think, Alex?
Well, let me start from the soft skill thing, right? Most people work remotely right now, at least in the knowledge economy. So your soft skills have to be exercised by writing on Slack. If you can't write, it's not going to work.
Yes.
So with all due respect to soft skills, if schools fail at what they're supposed to start from, at the basis on which you build everything else, then they serve no purpose except as jails for kids so their parents can work and know that the kids are not going to run away. That's pretty much what non-performing schools are like, right? And you have places in the US that are terrible, right? You have, I think in Philadelphia, they couldn't find a single high school where people could read at grade level, right? But Massachusetts used to be good. Maybe it still is, right? So the idea that you would get in and ruin the thing that is working to chase something that has never been shown to work in the past is crazy.
So this is some provincial annoyance for me. We're the fourth most expensive state. The weather is terrible. The oceans are useless. The taxes are high. It's dark and cold for 9 months. Everyone's an asshole. The only thing that we've had is academic superiority for a long time. And now we're going to give that away. It doesn't make any sense. So you want to test this? Let the dumb states test this. But you know what the dumb states are doing? They're starting to model their education system off of Massachusetts. So that is just so conceptual. Like, again, this is a dumb analogy. This is giving up Tom Brady. Like, why did we do that? Turned out to be an awful decision. We've been terrible for 5 years. We have this going for us. Why are we going to screw it up? And what annoys me about this is that it is forcing me to defend the standard American education system, which I do think was mostly meant to produce factory workers. But we have the best of, and who knows? I mean, I'm sure Massachusetts is different and unique in its own special way, but we're number one. Why would you screw up with number one? It's also like, yes, our high schools seem to be great, right? But we also have Harvard and MIT and BU and BC and all these great schools. Like, we're a hub of education in the United States. We need smart people. Please, dear God, not us. Do it in Kentucky. Any tennis, take it. Do whatever you want. Experiment with the 48th, not the first.
Yeah, so I'm going to get political here, right?
Okay.
Because I think that there is an underlying philosophy that kind of separates the, let's say, ideological conservatives from the ideological progressives, right?
Yeah.
The ideological progressives think, okay, here's the problem as I see it. I'm an expert. Here's the solution that I think will be ideal. Let's implement it everywhere, right? And then the ideological conservative says, all humans are idiots, including you, expert. Let's not do anything, right? Obviously, both of these approaches are not great. But the right approach is, let's experiment in one place and see how it works, right? So if the program in Massachusetts were, let's select the 5 worst performing high schools, run this pilot there for 10 years to run a full cycle, and then if it does better, let's start expanding the pilot gradually. This would be a reasonable solution. But trying to change it in all the schools and the state from something that is proven to work over multiple decades into something that is interesting idea,
right?
That's just crazy.
And okay, so this is the thing too. It talks about it's because there's a lot of poor Latinos and poor Blacks who aren't testing as well as they should be. To me, so let's throw more resources at that. As a matter of fact, if you go into this article, the whole thing was throwing more resources at education rose sort of all boats. So in this case, let's leave the standards alone for those who are performing well. Let's maybe throw more resources to those. Listen, I love minorities. Don't get me wrong. I love the Blacks and the Latinos and the gays even, and then the Jews. All these people love me. I love them. This has nothing to do with that. I don't think you're doing them any favor by lowering the standards to allow them to graduate. You're not like, it's sort of like it's the mortgage crisis all over again. It's like mortgages were a safe bet. Let's let everybody have them. Oh, shit, nobody can pay their mortgage. If the education in Massachusetts is good, let's make sure everybody gets that education. Let's not lower the standard. That doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, and then the other question is, like you said, right? Maybe the difference is not in the thing you're trying to modify, right? So if right now all the different groups are getting the same good education, and it works for some of them, doesn't work for others, then the problem is not in the education here, right? The people for whom it doesn't work, they lack something, right? And I don't know specifically which group has which issue. I'm not going to comment on that, right? But they probably lack something outside of school, right? So either you need to throw more resources, but it shouldn't be more resources in school. It should be more resources in something else. And like, there's the charity route. I know that at least the charity to which I donate the most is Reach Out and Read, because that is their idea. Let's find mothers who have never read to their kids. Give them books and tell them how to read to kids, right? Because a lot of kids are missing that. They don't get books read to them. They don't try to read before they reach school, right? And to me, it's unfathomable that the first time you see a book is in school, right? But that might be one of the differences. I don't know what the others are, but let's research this and try to fill in the gap outside of school instead of trying to modify school itself.
Yeah, I've seen studies where they say that a major difference in the education and the learning ability of a child is the volume of words that they hear. Simply, it doesn't even almost have to be what the words are, just the volume of words. And they studied poor households and rich households. And it's something like kids in richer households or more affluent households are spoken to 3x what poor kids are. So reading, being hungry is another thing. Like, students don't learn well when they're hungry. So in a lot of these schools, there's just not how about breakfast and read to the kids and see how that goes instead of revamping the entire Massachusetts education system? I
do want to temper your enthusiasm a little bit about that research. A lot of it has shown to basically disappear the moment you actually control for all the right factors. right? So like number of words spoken, that is a really good parameter. It correlates nicely, except if you now control for the educational status of the parents, it goes away, right? So essentially the cause here is not kids are performing better because they heard more words.
Yeah.
It's kids are performing better because their parents are the kind of parents who use more words.
Which I've always pushed back on that as well. But I'm just saying, like, we got to start somewhere. Here's the other thing too that's disheartening about this. Massachusetts is so expensive. This word is overused, but you literally cannot afford to be poor and dumb in this state. Education is going to pull you out of it. Like we need a whole bunch of smart kids to even live here. Everything is wildly expensive. We're doing nobody any favors by saying if you get a D-, you're fine. Go out to the workforce. I'm sure you'll be all right. I just don't get it. We had it. We had it all. We had Tom Brady. We had the best education system. Why do we keep screwing this up?
I don't know that Tom Brady is an exemplar of the best education system, but all right, let's go with that.
Certainly. What I'm saying is that we had this man and we won 6 rings and then we gave him away and we have no rings. So we had the best education system. We have smart students. We give that away. We're going to have a whole bunch of dummies. And naturally this happens when I have kids in this state. Oh my God. I was hoping.
And soon you won't have Harvard anymore because it's going poof.
That's great. So now we might as well be Tennessee. So congratulations, Massachusetts. You gave it all away for nothing.
Start changing the accent.
I'm moving. Okay. Where are we going? Who has the best education? Oh, New York has also already done this. I should have looked up. Okay, one more thing on this though. I looked up the countries that have the best education. This has a little bit of hope. So you got Finland is number 1 generally. They have a very soft sort of socialist.
And as you know, I have a family connection to Finland, so yes.
Okay, so yeah, so they're more closely probably to what we're going to become. Singapore is next. They're very heavy in math, very rigid. South Korea, they are very STEM. They go to school all day, every day. But then Canada, who's also more like Finland and more like what Massachusetts is going to become. So I guess there's a little hope for any kind of education system. I'm just saying, again, don't screw with the best. Experiment with the stupider ones.
That's a good rule to follow.
Yeah, thanks. Well, I'm a genius. All right. Hey, listen, thanks for tuning in, America. We'll be back next week with more stories that the mainstream media doesn't want to talk about. They fear the truth about gay mice. Have a lovely evening.